experience in the kingdom.
Hello and welcome to Eswatini TV and to a brand new talk show called A Cuppa with Nomgebo. And I do what I have to do because I know where I'm going. All 5 of my mothers have inspired me.
So the addiction didn't happen then. It happened again another 8 years later. But that's where it started.
Choices I made at the time were not the best choices for myself.
I understand how a person can lose their mind in terms of life experiences. That's what it looks like, and I like that. But you know what? The journey to my success is never a straight line.
Yeah, people are on the net now, and that's where we'd like to catch them with such shows.
Kusile breakfast show. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, the 27th of July. Sasivele simgoqotile nje nasikhuluma liqiniso July singena kuye August. We are thankful to the God Almighty for keeping us until this period of the year. Lapho sithi khona yi-4th quarter of the year kusho kona kugoqota umnyaka hayi nje kugoqota July kuphela. A very good morning to you. Sithembe ukuthi uvuka kahle. Uma ngabe usibukela kumabonakude ungabadisa ke balingani bakho labangephandle kwelive ukuthi bangasithola nalapha ka YouTube and Eswatini TV YouTube channel where they can stream this episode live and direct. Siyakubusela, I'm not alone. I'm with the lovely Lungalele Makakula in all black today. Kunjani Mfambeni?
I'm well, I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. Black versus grey today.
Yeah, all right. So it's a beautiful Thursday morning. Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning. As I spoke in JT letamba imbili kuma pepanzaba 8 lomusha. All right, it's a minute after 6. As I spoke to Hloko Letamba Mbili, Pepanzabeni E-Times of Eswatini this Thursday. Zabalamba Mbili, Ilapa protest over drugs shortage. Patients leave wards, block government hospital gate. Emaphoyisa cops deployed at Mbabane Government Hospital as furious patients refuse to move in 3-hour standstill. Kuletini Tambaye Mbili, wife threatened to sell Mutu's Wemat Negusha Phoyisa. Elections race, Sabelo Mavuso withdraws EPC rules on Mkhululi. Kulenyela Hambaye Mbili, director found guilty of 49 tax evasion counts.
Demdlalo Times of Eswatini Tambaye Mbili. Tall order and continental journey as South Africans beat 3 extras to face buffs. Lapha ke kunyiswa indzaba yema former Kaizer Chiefs stars Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates who were players in Sekhukhune CAF squad. Badlali bafaka ekhatsi former Orlando Pirates playmaker and club captain Linda Mdambo, former Kaizer Chiefs Sipho Sake Ndiandia, former FC Twente and Brentford player Kamohelo Mokocho. Lenye lehamba embili, iti Henderson trains with Al Ettifaq. lana-ke indzaba lekhulumisa Henderson lebekadlalela licembu le-Liverpool leso trainer nelicembu le-Al-Ettifaq khona eDubai. Lenye legijima imbili ithi Stiga AWOL at Highlanders ngoba Highlanders talented midfielder Banele Stiga Nzabanzaba has reportedly gone absent without official leave. Kanti-ke ekugcina legijima imbili ithi playing professional football not lost from Mkhondo. It seems that Real AM targets Mxolisi Mkhondo stream of playing professional football is not over.
Lotamba imbili Eswatini Observer inzabalamba imbili drugs shortage drama as patients stage protest demand medication and no more delays. Kulenye lamba imbili Sabelo Mavuso withdraws from MP race. Kuletinye lethamba imbili on page 3 wife threatened me with solidarity forces ngisho kweliphoyisa.
Kanti-ke kuletihamba embili temidlalo khona ku Eswatini Observer. I'm afraid baka Observer basendele my headlines are Tuesday. I'm not too sure though. I think we may want to skip this one and just go straight to Eswatini Daily News.
Eswatini Daily News. Standard Bank awunayo customers mixed feelings over withdrawal fees. Bulletin lethamba imbili walk day to Big Bend to Sipofaneni up the temple. Kanti-ke lenye lamba imbili 17 murder cases in Hlatikulu in past year.
Kanti-ke kutemidlalo Eswatini Daily News legijima embili Wanderers hit 1 million votes mark. The fervently supported hub side Manzini Wanderers join pace setters Peaks Peak Black Swallows in the over 1 million mark in ongoing Momo Cup voting exercise. Kanti-ke leti qhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli kutemidlalo legijima embili NBA star LeBron James' son stable after cardiac arrest. Lenye lihamba imbili ithi 1.7 million emalangeni stands on young Buffs ladies way. Itholakala ke page 19 Eswatini Daily News. Yeah, tingawo-ke leti gijima embili emaphephandzabeni etfu lomuhla ekuseni. Kanti-ke ehlelweni lomuhla sitawukhulumisa indzaba lenkhulu Entrepreneurship Awards of the Year. Indzaba-ke lena kulandzela ukuthi FNB helps businesses thrive with 1.5 million emalangeni Entrepreneur of the Year Award sponsorship on the 20th of March 2023. Indzaba lesayibona lapho where FNB Eswatini renewed its commitment to helping local businesses thrive with the sponsorship over, or rather worth 1.5 million emalangeni for the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards of this year. The 17th edition of the Entrepreneur Year of Awards was launched at Hilton Garden Inn after a 3-year break due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Asike ngumsebenzi lomkhulu lona loqhubekako kubo nje bosomabhizinisi labancane njengoba nje lomncintiswano seeks to uncover and celebrate exceptional micro, small and medium enterprises that have demonstrated solid leadership and are innovative in their businesses and also make meaningful contributions to society and turn ideas into viable ventures. FNB's contribution to the areas will further support the initiative in running empowerment projects that will give entrepreneurs the assistance that they need beyond the event.
Yeah, kanti-ke leli partnership yaleli bhange nje naSEDCO i-data back to umnyaka wa 2010 lapho khona leli bhange la awarda its first sponsorship to the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards as a category sponsor, which was valued at just 25,000 emalangeni lokunyalo seyifike kuma-million nema-million. Lomuhla-ke FNB holds the title as the main sponsor for the awards and supports the initiative with a contribution that exceeds just the event.
As a makulonjwa lo msebenzi, FNB CEO Dennis Mbingo noted the evolution of the collaboration from category sponsorship to partner and now an integrated enabler. He also highlighted the importance of private sector players to show deliberate interventions in the economy and in our society as part of normal governance.
Yep, this year's 1.5 million emalangeni will not only go towards a brand new vehicle, which is a Toyota GD6, that will be handed to the Entrepreneur of the Year Award winner as the grand prize, but it will additionally support the growth of MSMEs in Eswatini through 2 empowerment programs.
Kanti-ke during the launch nendvuna nayo lebukete emabhizinisi Minister Manxeba Khumalo abekhona kulo msebenzi wavete-ke ukuthi they'll be looking at reaching out to more SMEs this year. Past winners of the year say the increase in sponsorship will propel greater reach to entrepreneurs at a time when they need it the most.
Yep, kanti-ke Entrepreneur of the Year Awards 2009 winner Phumelele Motha of Velekhanya Investments described lolu sito lwe-FNB as quite significant. Uthi limcwa kakhulu. Kanti-ke lo wawina nga-2019 Mashaya Nkonjana Investments yena longusifiso Nhlengethwa. What he greatly appreciates the support by FNB. These two past winners were among the guests at the launch of the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards 2023.
Yeah, sabe sikhulumisana nje na Dumisani Sikhosana kanye na Zamantolo Fakuthe lapho sokwakase khona ka FNB kuva kabantu nje ngalemncintiswano letabe banje kule mphela somvo sabe sikhulumisana nabo namhla ekseni at 6:30. So do stay with us. Kwanyalo, let's take a break sibuye netindzaba tekucala.
Busisika mzalwane ukubukela umculo wemadodana ahlabelela athumisa uNkulunkulu. Amadodana nendumiso luhlelo lwakhele wena mbukeli ude utovuseleleka emoyeni uphinze udumise nelidodana sibabade longabonwa ngemehlo. Phakama Nkosi yemazulu luthumbo lwakho. Amadodana nendumiso.
Let me tell you about my crush.
Ngenzale inhlitiyo yami embi kwakho njengekudala.
Nkondlo yesiswati.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Asimze sinimukele sidabukana ditindzaba teSwati. Live leSwatini selitibophelele ekutheni liqinise temfundvo ngekuthi lakhe imitabo yelwati kanye netindzawo tekufundza eScience yama-laboratories etikolweni. Lesethembiso lesisendiwe nguNdvunankhulu Cleopas Dlamini emhlanganweni wabaholi bemave livekati le-Africa e-Africa Heads of State Human Capital Summit lobanjelwe eveni leTanzania.
Mvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini lomelele silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu emhlanganweni webaholi bemave livekati le-Afrika wekubuka ukuthi kungahlanyelwa njani timali kubantfu labasha kuze basite ekuthuthukiseni umnotho. Uthi noma leSwatini liphakela kakhulu ematiko etemfundvo kanye neletempilo kumaphakelwa hulumende, leSwatini lisatawuchubeka lifake emandla lengetiwe kuze bantfu labasha batawutfola imfundvo bakhule bathuthukise live. Lomhlangano lona ufika nje libhange lemhlaba libukisana nemave elivekati le-Afrika libone ukuthi sinengi kakhulu sibalo sebantfu labasha kuleli vekati ikakhulu esifundzeni lesisendasi ne-Afrika lapho leSwatini likhona khona kanze emathuba emsebenzi mancane kakhulu. Ndvunankhulu uvetele lo mhlangano lokuhlongotwa live leSwatini kucinisekisa ukuthi labantfu labasha abanzinzi kodwa bakhicitela live, washo nekuthi indlela icala ekutholeni imfundvo lengiyo.
but our progress was making sure that high school is also lead free.
Libhange lemhlaba liveta ukuthi bantfu lapha eSwatini babalelwa ngetulu kwa 1.1 million kanti 72% wabo yinsha. Ngetulu kwehafu yalensha ayinamisebenzi. Kulomhlangano longenelwe nguNdunankulu kuvelile ukuthi yonke lensha lengaka ingumnotho lomkhulu eveni lodzinga ukuthi ufundziswe lokungiko kuze kundlondlobale emave. Etinzapente Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela eDar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Imvana litiko letempilo imphunga lizinkosi ithi litiko litakwengeta abodokotela bemathambo labatakwelapha labo labephukile njengoba sesesinyenti kakhulu sive lesibhedlela kodwa singakhona kusitakala ngenxa yokuswelakala kwemithi kanye nabodokotela. Imvana kusho lokhu nayo yohlola labagulako labalindele lusito lwamathambo.
Kube nokuphathamiseka kwekusebenza kwesibhedlela lesikhulu sahulumende eMbabane ngesikhathi labagulela emawadini ngenxa yetifo letahlukahlukene temathambo baphumela ngephandle bayawuvakalisa tikhalo tabo tekunganakeki kahle esibhedlela. Induna yetempilo imphunga lizinkosi ivele yanikela khona esibhedlela kuyokuva letikhalo nekuchaza lokho uhulumende lakwentako ekucatululeni tinkinga letikhona kutempilo.
Iyathengwa imithi kuyadeliver nje nala esibhedlela. Lokuyaye kusikhiye ngoloko ukuthi ukhanze ukuthi umuthi thide asikhona ivele kuthola kulama suppliers. Kodwa emalanga nemalanga siyadeliver kusho lutho kini nelelihleti la ningaboni lokuthi kukhona lokwenteka kude ilanga lamahala lapha lama suppliers angasibambisi kuko. Sesedama ke manje imitamo lemkhulu kwekuthi sibuke ukuthi ngaba njani ukuthi basibambise sikhone kucala kuleli viki lelitako. Sibuke lawo ma cases lesingawenda. Angisho ukuthi lokhu kutabalula ngoba la ngenhlanye sibuke ukuthi imithi lengenako nalesitholako inganani kulala basupplyako. La ngenhlanye sibuke ukuthi labodokotela lesawukhulumisana nabo batosebenza la eMbabane eRFM nasemankayane ngoba abantu labaningi sebasuke tonke esibhedlela deliver bede la eMbabane ngaloku sibabona ngathi kukhona lokukhona. Silitiko siyetama kakhulu. Manje nje ukucolisa vele kwekuthi imithi beyisiphelele sedama kuyiletha nalokuthi lokunibambelele ngiko lokuthi ukhanze ukuthi bodokotela kude bona kunalabo lababili.
Emavikini amabili ledlulile induna yetempilo imphunga lizinkosi yethulela iParliament ukuthi litiko letempilo seliyitholile imvumo yokungeta tisebenti tetempilo letifaka ekhatsi nabo bodokotela. Kulombiko wenduna yaphindze yachaza ukuthi litiko selisebenzisana nebetempilo belive le-Republic of China, Taiwan nelelesotho kubonisana ukuthi imithi yetibhedlela inganakekeleka kanjani ukuthi ifike kahle lapho kufanele iye khona. Etinzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube navuma inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Selifikile kuleli libandla lelibuya enhlanganweni ebunye bemave Africa African Union utobukisisa umonakalo lowendiwa nguzamcolo Eloise ekusho kwalo sabambe kuba indvuna yelitiko letangephandle nekudlelana nalamanye emave mabulala maseko lozamcolo walimata takhiwo letinyenti lokhunyabete kakhulu intuthuko yelive. Maseko bekakhulumana kemukela lelibandla esikhumulweni setindiza esikhuphe.
Lo sabambe kuba indvuna yelitiko letangephandle nekudlelana namanye emave mabulala maseko sewomukele libandla lelichamuka ka-African Union lelilapha eSwatini kutobuka imithelela lemibi yazamcolo Eloise lo wabakhona nakucala umnyaka wa 2021. Maseko uvetile kwekuthi lelibandla bheke ukuthi livakashele imisebenti leyahlukene lefaka ekhathi emabloho lawo uhulumende lawakha labulawa nguye lo zamcolo.
Live leMaswati ke lalahlekela kakhulu kufaka ekhathi emave lamanye. Siyajabula ke kakhulu ekutheni lelibandla from the African Union likhona lapha litonda i-assessment nanalo. Kwathi sawusilive leMaswati nalo beliyendile assessment through NDMA lapho khona kwakhanzala ukuthi lo monakalo omkhulu kakhulu wathi nje nasekubalwa kwakhanzala ukuthi 500 million i-damage lenteka.
Lohola lelibandla ngumhlonishwa ayeye Lireji Jamo lovetile ukuthi loluvakasho nalolicwaningo lokukhombisa kwesekela emave la kule nhlangano yebunye bemave eAfrika.
to show the solidarity of African Union members to the Kingdom of the Eswatini, to the peoples and government of the Eswatini, on the impact that the government and people of Kingdom of Eswatini faced during the cyclone impact in 2021. And that impact had affected, we learned that that impact had affected infrastructure, destruction of the infrastructure, and affected also many thousands of the people.
Hulumende watibophelela kukhipha imali lenganga 40 million emalangeni kuthi kulungise takhiwo lebetilimele letfake ekhatsi emabloho. Tindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni kunaThemba Shabangu esikhuphe.
Live leSwatini ngekubambisana nemahhovisi yakamhlaba selicalile kulungiselela umhlangano lomkhulu wentuthuko lekhonsako yakamhlaba ekusho komchumanisi wetinhlelo kamhlaba Sibusiso Mngadi kwanyalo lelihhovisi nelitiko letekuhlela umnotfo lisakoleka imivo mayelana neluthi leSwatini selihambe umgamo longanani ekufezeni lemigomo nekubuka ukuthi lokusengakentiwa kungafezekwa kanjani. Mngadi abekhuluma enhlanganweni esifundza sakaHhohho lobanjelwe ehhotela le-Mountain View.
Emave emhlaba lekufaka ekhatsi leSwatini atibophelela ukuthi kutaba nenzima lebonakalako layidlalako ekufezeni imigomo yentfutfuko lekhonsako yakamhlaba. LeSwatini ngekubambisana namhlabuhlangene lisemkhankasweni wekubuketa ukuthi live liselele emuva kutiphi tinhlangothi kusalungiselelwa kubuketwa kwetindlela tekutfutfukisa umfutfo lofakwa ngiwe emave. Umchumanisi wetinhlelo emahhovisini akamhlabuhlangene Sibusiso Mngadi uthi ke tifundza telive setivakashelwe cishe tonke.
Lelihlelo lwalama SDGs kungentiwa kanjani ukuthi lufezeke njengoba belihleliwe kusukela nga-2015 despite lama challenges labhekene nomhlaba. Sitakhumbula kune COVID-19 kunetimpi kunalokwa nalokwa lokhu affecte lama SDGs le ngabe nyalo vele sisehafini yokufika kuwo. Kepha-ke baholi bemhlaba na UN babonile ukuthi kungendeka ukuthi ngeke ukuthi sifake ligeya lelinye kuze ukuthi sitokhona kufinyelela le 2030 successfully. So lapha-ke njengoba namhlanje sikaHhohho sisupporta i-Ministry of Economic Planning ne-Ministry of Tinkhundla ngoba ngiyo le facilitate le mihlangano ukuthi ibe khona nema-regional development teams. Ma-regional development teams ndawuthi multi-sectoral ngoba afaka tonke tinhlangothi within the regions ukuthi sithole imivo yawo wonke umuntu lo on the ground ukuthi kungentiwa kanjani ukuthi live leSwatini lifake ligeya lesibili nalo ukuze ukuthi sifinyelele kulama sustainable development goals.
LeSwatini kubhekeke ukuthi ke libambe umhlangano lomkhulu wema SDGs lokuyi SDGs Summit ngenyanga yeNyoni kulomnyaka. Tindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni kunaThemba Shabangu eMbabane.
Mengameli wenhlangano yabathengi Consumer Forum Mandla Njakala uthi kwehla kwemdulamphahla kanye nentengo yetimvo interest rate kutawusita ukuthi eMaswati akhululeke kancane njengoba simo besiselikhuni kubantu labanyenti. Njakala uthi emabhange kulesikhathi yakhuthazwa ukuthi asichazele sive mayelana nekwehla kwekubhadala kwetimvo letinengi.
Libhange lelikhulu i-Central Bank of Eswatini likhiphe umbiko we-monetary policy walenyanga lesetulu lovete ukuthi umdulamphahla wehlile. Sikhulumisene namengameli wenhlangano yabathengi Consumer Forum Mandla Njakala lovetile ukuthi ke lokhu kutawehlisa umthwalo kubathengi.
Nakuthiwa i-interest rate iyehla sikubuka lokho kuyi-advantage kithi thina eMaswati ngoba i-buying power nekuboleka kutawubakhona la kusisita khona lokho. Ndakhumbula kahle ukuthi siMaswati empeleni impilo yethu seyisima kakhulu ekubolekeni. So nakukhona la kwehla khona tinto letiphethelene nekubhadara leto timali le konke lokho sikubona kuyinto lesisitako thina eMaswati.
Themba Inkosi Dube longusomnotfo uthi libhange lelikhulu lende kahle kwehlisa intengo ikakhulu yetimvo i-interest rate njengoba ke kutawenta ukuthi akhululeke eMaswati kwesikhashana.
Kutindzaba letimnanzi leto kungathi kuletha kukhululeka ukuthi abantu baphefumule kulesikhashana lesikiso. So sibona kuyinto lenhle, it's a move
labayibheyise kumbe ekuthenini babone imudulambadla wehla to 5.3%.
Dube uthi kusengakateki kahle ukuthi isikhathi nasichubeka simo semnotho sitawuba ngilesi kanjani. Etindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni, Nathemba Shabangu, eMbabane.
Lomela umphathi wamaphoyisa Shadrack Simelane ukhuthaza sive ukuthi siwusebenzise umhlaba mkhosi long 112 losebenza inhlangothini edahlukene. Simelane uphindze ukhuthaza sive ukuthi sibambisane kulwa nebucala bekubulalana.
Emaphoyisa eMbube aqhuba umkhankaso lobuke kutsi bucala netingoti temgwaco tingancishiswa njani edolobheni kaHlatsi. Lomele umphathi wemaphoyisa Shadrack Simelane ukhutsata abatali kutsi basaya etinkonzweni emasontveni babe neliso kutsi bantfwana basasele emakhaya abangenela imikhuba lengalungi.
This is another venture levelile kubuka kokuthi kucala singakunqoba kanjani ukhutsata kureporta tintfo letendekako emimangweni yethu. 112 ungena ku-Joint Operation Center yethu. Akusho-ke ukuthi 999 akasebenzi na 999 solo ukhona uyasebenta kwengeta nje ngokuthi sikhona kungena kalula boba betikhulu ngilapho sonke sibuya khona. Ngakho-ke boba betikhulu banelichaza lelikhulu lekuthi balidlale ekusilulekeni lapho kubonakala khona ukuthi kunetinkinga especially ekucaleni.
Lobukete kuphepha emgacweni yetiko letekutfutsa mlungisi Ndlangamandla utsi tingoti letiningi labatibonako nguletifaka bantfu labahamba ngetinyawo.
Ngatsandza kukutsata nje madolobha lesikunosisile kunemadolobha lamabili lekudolobha laseMatsapha nedolobha laseMbabane sebacalile bakha emabhalatsi lokubokhongolo labahlukanisa i-pavement nemigwaco. Siyakhutsata nje ukuthi onke emadolobha akakwente lapho ikakhulu lapho kwewela khona bantwana besikolo kungaba setibhedlela asitakheni stendeni letindzawo tekuvikela ukuthi imoto seyiphambalata ayingafiki kulo muntu ohamba ngetinyawo lapha pavement.
17 emacala ekubulala labikiwe station semaphoyisa kaHlatsi kusuka eminyakeni lophelile kude kube ngenyanga yenhlaba kulomnyaka. Lobika-ke Ndzabeni Eswatini TV nguthando kuhle Mdluli ngekaHlatsi.
Kutemidlalo lowakwadlalela likhethelo lesive silangisemnikati kanye nelicembu lemanzini Wanderers William Shongo uthi amacembu lamabili akuleli lekuyi-Green Mamba lefonsane nelicembu lesongo lase-Mozambique ngaphansi kwe-CAF Champions League kanye ne-Young Buffaloes letfonsane nelicembu lesikhukhune laseNingizimu Afrika ngaphansi kwe-CAF Confederations asenawo amathuba ekuthi angachubekela etigabeni letilandzelako tale midlalo ikakhulukazi njengoba linyenti lalabadlali balamacembu badlalela likhethelo lesive lokusho ukuthi sebanalo lwati lokudlala lemidlalo ngaphandle. Kulandzela kutfonsana kwamacembu emidlalweni eCAF khona kulamacembu lamabili lamelele live. Licembu leGreen litawutfolana itulu nesongo FC yaseMozambique bese iYoung Buffaloes itawutfolana itulu nesikhukhune United yaseNingizimu Afrika. William Coolcat Shongo lowake wadlalela likhethelo lesive kanye nelicembu lemanzini Wanderers uthi lamacembu lamabili akuleli asenalo lithuba lekuthi angachubekela esigabeni lesilandzelako njengoba linyenti lebadlali balamacembu badlalela likhethelo lesive sihlangu semnikati lokusho ukuthi sebanalo lwati lokudlala nemacembu angephandle.
Still feel like Eswatini, if you look at the players that consist of the Green Mamba and the other team, they've got most players in the national team. So that on its own is added value to the club because these players have now international experience at international level. So there's a lot of factors that tells the story that there could be possible upset. Everyone has a chance here to go through to the next round. Eswatini are an unknown entity to them. So that could play in the favor of Eswatini. But you can't go and exchange applause with Sekhukhune or even the Mozambican side. I think maybe they're not fully professional, but they are at a higher level. I'm talking about the whole structure of football in that country. So there's definitely great quality there. There's a great focus in development. There's great focus in a lot of other things. And the competition in Mozambique is spread all over. Unlike in Eswatini, you find the other teams are not as competitive as others. So that tends to drop the level of competition in the country.
Sho ngochubeka waveta ukuthi lokungendela phansi lamaqembu inkinga lenkulu ilive libhekene nayo kubabethe inkundla letizezingeni lokwenta ukuthi emaqembu akuleli adlalele imidlalo yayo ngaphandle. Imilende yekuqala kulamaqembu lamabili awudlala ivikini lamhla ka-18 bese imilende esibili itawudlalwa ivikini lamhla ka-25 enyangeni letako. Etindzabeni kuyalungelela amagakola umbiko ohlanganiswe nguFabrice Musonera eMbabane. Alidoti imidlalo sitebeka lapho tindzaba tetfu lomhla ekseni star uthatha likhefu nasibuya sitaba sikhuluma nge-Entrepreneur of the Year Awards sikhulumisana na Dumsane Sikhosana losuka ka-FNB kanye na Zamantolo Vakutsi losuka ka-Sedco.
Hey yo, this is DJ Cybers. What's up guys, King J's here. My name is Kripo Intellectual. What's up everybody, my name is SK.
Hey guys, this is your girl Z.
This weekend Eswatini has been such an amazing show. For all the years they've always supported all the local talent and all the local shows.
Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Fridays.
It's one of the best entertainment shows Eswatini. So guys, you know what, this is the best show to have. Like if you watch Swazi TV and you're a person who actually enjoys watching like musical shows that have a lot of content, that have good stuff, This Weekend Eswatini is your show.
For all the good vibes, all the good energy, make sure you tune into This Weekend Eswatini every Friday from 5:30 to 6:30. I'll say it again, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m.
A 1-hour fun-filled train of entertainment. We are taking you from 5:30 all the way to 6:30 every Friday, live on Eswatini TV.
And yes, of course, we are your #1 entertainment show in the kingdom of Eswatini. But you can interact with us on all social media platforms. We are at This Weekend Eswatini on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Lalela Tina, we will definitely get back to you. This is your official weekend party starter.
I don't wanna go around singing songs at peace.
All right, it's 32 minutes after 6. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We did mention when the show started that we'll be talking to First National Bank of Eswatini as well as Sedco, but we do start with FNB Eswatini right now. Following that, on the 20th of March 2023, they renewed their commitment to helping local businesses thrive with the sponsorship for this year's Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. The 17th edition of the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards was launched at Hilton Garden Inn after a 3-year break due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Notable about FNB and Sedco's partnership is that it has stood the test of time, as the bank's partnership with Sedco dates back to 2010, when the bank awarded its first sponsorship to the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards as a category sponsor, which was valued at only 25,000 in Malanga. It was a lot of money at the time. Today, FNB holds the title as the main sponsor for the awards and supports the initiative with a contribution that exceeds just the event. Let's further this conversation now with FNB Eswatini's Commercial Sales Manager, Dumsane Sikhosana. Very wonderful to have you on the show, Mr. Sikhosana. A very good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. And yourself?
I'm doing very well. Let's talk about this beautiful sponsorship that you have for Sedco, as well as, you know, the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. If we talk about 2010, I believe Bigme World Cup lap. Yeah. The whole world was excited in World Cup in South Africa. It's a very long time ago. I think I was in Form 2. I was very young. Not preschool. Yeah, no, I was in Form 2. I'm just trying to premise lenzaba lena ngokwekuthi you've been with Setco for a very long time in the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. How much nasibuka ku at the time 25,000 emalangeni this year? How much have you sponsored the awards with?
Ngiyabonga kakhulu. I think as you had mentioned, dating back from 2010, siqale nga 25,000. Nyalo sesikhuphule sponsorship sethu siye ku 1.5 million. Kulo 1.5 million we will be seeing 880 ahamba ayoseta emaswati business awo akhule. Part of the 880 it's imoto leto khona kuseta eSwati leto winner, the overall winner leto hamba nayo imoto leto ikhona nayo kuyiseta ku production ye business yayo.
The Toyota GD6, I believe.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes,
great.
yes.
And how does FNB help SMEs from a banking perspective now?
FNB from a banking perspective is structured mhlawumbe under 3 pillars, where focus yethu ka SME sithi if you want to start a business, buya kithi, open an account with us. After opening an account with FNB, we'll just make sure ukuthi business yakho seyiyaqala seyiyasebenta. With our online banking enterprise, we will be able to start transacting or interacting with suppliers akho, with bantu lokudinga ukuthi ubabhadale. We do also have an FNB app on your phone as well, where noma ngabe business yakho nature yayo ibida ukuthi ingabe se-office at certain times, you'll be able ukuthi u-interact nabo bonke bantu emhlabeni lo interact nabo. Now, nasbuga the run pillar, it's where we assist some business to grow their enterprises as well. With the lending products, we have got a Scott lending product where emaswati with behavior yabo, with the inflows and the outflows of cash lingena account yabo, we are able to seba grant a facility to assist them grow their enterprises.
Interesting. I like the fact that ni yababamba la sandlenje throughout the whole process. Let's talk now. I'm aware that ubal judge ulama competition. As a judge, engabe what are some of the key things you look for in an entrepreneur loglama awards?
Bekukuningana besibuka the innovation component of it kukuthi ema entrepreneurs that component I employ kangakanani into their space. Besibuka futhi the factor yokuthi the way the use of a technology to connect with a customer abo and initiatives laba now in place to grow also their enterprise and also remain relevant. So there was a lot as judges.
Mr. Skosana, I'm afraid we've run out of our time, but Nyafuna, just briefly, in less than 20 seconds, advice that you have for SMEs looking for funding from your bank.
I would advise Kokuti basesonzelele emaswati. Sine relationship model whereby emaswati siyakhona kokuthi siwabambe, siwa assist, siwa understand their needs, and lusito olukhona around that kokuthi we, as mentioned earlier on, kokuthi sina Scott lending, sina na CPE lokhona kokuthi a pledge security to assist emaswati access funding bank. So lengakukhutha emaswatini kokuthi akasonzelele ahlale kunye nathi so that sizokhona kuwaseta business awakhulu.
Thank you so much. FNB's commercial sales manager Dumsani Skosane just giving us a brief highlight really of what FNB does with Setco Mailana Nema Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Let's go for a net break. Nasbuya Lungelele speaks with Zama from Setco. Setco, I believe, is the implementing agency for Lama Awards, so you don't want to miss this one, Ngainzao.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Welcome back. Asiyekuvusele sekwemukele nawo losanza kuzivulela sifisa ucaza kukhulumisana na commercial sales manager waka FNB sikhuluma kabanti-ke nge-Entrepreneur of the Year Awards latawubanjwa masinyana. Siyakhuluma ukuthi i-Entrepreneur of the Year Awards ngama-awards laqala kuba khona ngeminyaka wa-2010. Sicalwa ngiyo inkampani lethuthukisa bona bosomabhizinisi labancane iSEDCO. I'm joined via Zoom by Communications Officer kaSEDCO Zamantolo Fakutse. Kuchazela ukuthi ingabe umsebenzi nje ama-AS awuthuthuka kangakanani. Siyakhulumela ukuthi the past few weeks babasola babamba regional awards. Sifuna kuva-ke nokuthi ingabe lawo ama-awards lawo ahambe kanjani. Asevusele Zama, good morning and welcome to the show. Siyakhulumela ukuthi vele bensolweni bamba wona lama-regional competitions. Ingabe vele mhlambe kukhona interesting trends nje lenwabonile from ama-applicants in the region. Bukele sithatha nje ilikhefu sabuya khona manje.
Are they yours?
Ngabukela ke washa umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Welcome back. Sikuvusele nolosanza kusivulela. Unfortunately, we were interrupted. Besakhulumisana na communications officer waka SEDCO sikhuluma nge-Entrepreneur of the Year Awards latawubanjwa masinyane. Sitakhumbuka ukuthi iSEDCO beyisolo ibamba regional competitions for SMEs. Si join nguye Zama Ntolo Fakutse via Zoom. Good morning Zama. Besinibonile nibamba nje regional competitions now SMEs. Can you share some interesting trends nje from applicants in the region?
Good morning, Lulu. Thank you for having us on the show. Siyavusela namaswati la silalele emakhaya. Okay, so I think this year just very impressed to see ukuthi SMEs ethu they are coming from different sectors. Lokusijabulisa ukuthi SEDCO because we want SMEs to dominate every sector in the economy yala Eswatini. So angibeke nje ukuthi for instance sithi naseHoho region sabona lokuthi incumbi SMEs lapho makhona they are more on the technology development space njengabo software development as well nokuthi sibone ukuthi SMEs sekana loku integrator i-technology ku production yawo. So I think that's been the main trend nje lokubona ukuthi there's a lot of SMEs I embrace technology maybe naloko kungedwe COVID yini we don't really know but kuyasijabulisa either way because we are working towards a technology driven economy as a country sitofana nalamanye amave lathuthukile njengabo USA. Also that I can say lesikubonile ukuthi there's been a growth ku participation from EU and logo I think a testament of my efforts ahulumende to integrate youth into entrepreneurship kunciphisa le rate unemployment amongst the youth. So siyabona ukuthi okay contribute njengabo JA nabo youth revolving fund lokuthi bakhuthaze youth ukuthi ingene ku entrepreneurship. I think nje size sitobona ukuthi most of our finalists I think more than 60% of them by youth and they are dominating in different categories. So I think that's been the main trends, the technology as well as the participation youth.
Okay, so siyade ukuthi as SEDCO mandate yenu kuza manje ukuthuthukisa abosomabhizinisi labancane, but how do you actually do this? How does SEDCO assist SMEs?
All right, thank you for that. Today, SEDCO, our main focus mula non-financial business development services and interventions. Nangwabeka kanjalo, this includes the trainings, lesiba nawo nalama mentorships, nalama as well as the coaching. So logo sikwenda kabili, sikwenda from the individual level as well as from a group level. Let's say sesi trainer, for instance, in my cooperatives, or sometimes ukhanza ukuthi sitawubitwa tinhlangano lefana bo World Vision letinabomake or i-utility labasebenza nawo that they're trying to kubafaka ku-entrepreneurship, then siyaba-trainer ke in larger groups. So thina ngiloko nje kakhulu is the trainings as well as labo business coaching nabo mentorship. We also provide as well as nabo business plan development. I think nje most of my SMEs zethu la nginele year, most of them bekasho kona ukuthi acala, like I said, khona wenda labo ma-business plan. Some of them also ngilabalaba ukhanze ukuthi bawendile ma-trainings zethu. So thina silapho nje at that foundational level lokuthi we train in, sorry?
Okubuda nje Zama, kumele ukuthi the last edition of MIA took place in 2019. What can people expect nje from MIA's alonyaka?
For us, it's more excitement because participants at this year, singasho ukuthi bosonzo nzima, in a sense ukuthi these are businesses la connect survivor i-COVID. So it's on a bigger scale in that sense ukuthi bosoma business labancane but that have really grown la bacashe nemaswati lamaningi. So the excitement, it's big on that. Nalokuthi nje we haven't had them for so many years, so anticipation is very high and excitement from our end in the Minister of Commerce. I think that's the main expectation.
Ingaba mhlambe nje nisavakashela nje dona tifunza delive ngaphi nje mhlambe emabhizinisi lena bonile lamasha this year nibonile nivele variety compared to the past competition.
We have I think like I mentioned before ukuthi semaningi lawala ku technology space. And also I think apart from that, because I'd already mentioned logo lokuthi, also we've seen ukuthi angibekise ngema small scale farmers because nabo babo soma business. We've seen ukuthi usually bokhanza ukuthi sithi soma business loka farming, but uyafama a family just to sell to community yakhe. But this time around we've seen ukuthi there's so many farmers lawa lasaqalene exporter. So that's been also a great trend. Lokubona ukuthi eMaswati they are also embracing farming as a business and also on a larger scale. So that's also been something exciting. Also one thing I would like to mention before ngivalelise ukuthi sicela ukuthatha nje bomake ukuthi sicela bakhulu because i-participation yabomake isengakafiki to the level that we would like to see. So we're hoping ukuthi nasiphinde sibuyane ema-air hopefully next year ukuthi sitawubona ukuthi bosomabhizinisi labo bomake i-participation yabo iyangedeka.
Zama, what advice can you give to bosomabhizinisi labafuna ukuthuthukisa amabhizinisi abo in the country?
Okay, that's a good question. Let's see sikubone ukuthi bosomabhizinisi labaphumelelako labancane bakhuluma ukuthi bona they've worked on themselves in terms of ukuthi develop le sithi capacity building. So sicela nje khusata bosomabhizinisi ukuthi ningabukele phasi emathuba to do trainings as well ukuthi ni communicate nalamanye ema service providers. For instance, nje nabo bosomabhizinisi you want to export, hambe yokhuluma nabo APA laba setha ema-business ukuthi export. If you're having issues with taxation, hambe uyo consult nabo ERS. So ngiloko nje ukuthi usomabhizinisi always look for opportunities to develop yourself. Nangabe khona la ucakeka khona, you should go uyofuna usizo.
Okay, thank you so much. Sibonge Zama. Mbukeli, that was Zamandelo Fagut, who was the communications officer at SECO. Sitakumbuka ukuthi ke kumasinyane nje said kwabambisana na FNB batabe babambe umncintiswano bosomabhizinisi labancane Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Sitakumbuka ukuthi le msebenzi wagcina kubanjwa ngeminyaka wa 2019 lokubuya this year. Let's go for an ad break with an interview with Corina Hawks, who is the FAO Director of Food Systems and Food Safety Division. Following that, for the last 2 days in Rome, the UN Secretary General participated in the UN Food Systems Summit stock-taking moment. The high-level event meant to build on the momentum of the 2021 Food System Summit was hosted by the government of Italy in collaboration with the Rome-based UN agencies.
The agri-food system is everything that is connected to food and agriculture? Well, when we eat, from our mouths all the way back to the way that food is sold, distributed and processed, and how food is grown in the fields, in the land, in the seas, and other products which are grown, which may not be food but fuel, fibre, involves a whole host of activities, investments, decisions. And an agri-food system pulls together all of this into a system. And what's really important, and why we call it a system, is that it's interconnected. So that means, for example, that if we want to grow fruits and vegetables in order that people eat healthier, we have to think not just about growing the vegetables, we have to think how they get to people. The agri-food system is exhausted. The way it's designed, the way it functions, means that it's weak, it lacks resilience, it's not strong enough, and it itself is worn out. So the challenge here is that the potential power of the agri-food system to provide these solutions isn't there until we transform the agri-food system to make it stronger and to help it provide the solutions we know it can provide. Some of the major challenges in the agri-food system include that the way that food is grown and the way that food is produced is contributing to climate change, which in turn weakens the agri-food system. It is producing the kind of food which is making people sick. And when people are sick, they can't function so well in the agri-food system. They're part of the agri-food system. So that makes it weaker. One thing we've done really wrong is to take diversity out of the system too much. And we need to bring that diversity back in. So we need to think much more carefully about how we produce diversity, which is also good for biodiversity, it's also good for the environment, but it's also good for people because we need to have a diversity of food on our plate. The most important way we need to transform the system is to bring all of the system together, and that means bringing all the people of the system together. At the moment, one of the major challenges is that we're working separately. There are some people over here trying to fix biodiversity. There are some people over here trying to fix nutrition. There are some people over here trying to fix food safety. There are some people over here trying to fix poverty amongst livelihoods of agricultural producers. And we're all operating in our separate spaces, and that weakens us too. The thing that really needs to happen is for people to come together and say, let's look at this as a system, let's work together as people in the system and figure out how to provide these solutions. The agri-food system, to me, really is a solution. It's a solution to the world's most important challenges. So if you have a problem, go to the agri-food system, you'll find a solution. You'll find a solution to climate change. You'll find a solution to biodiversity loss. You'll find a solution to malnutrition. You'll find a solution to chronic diseases. You'll find a solution to unsafe food. You'll find a solution to rural poverty, to lack of urban sustainability. What I'm hoping to see from the stock-taking meeting 2 years following from the UN Food Systems Summit is that governments and many other stakeholders come and attend and share their successes and share their challenges in making change. What I'm hoping for is for an open and honest discussion about what's happening, but also that it's tough. Making these changes is not easy. The ideal outcome is that the momentum that has been created will continue, and that the commitment to change will not just stay as commitment, but will lead to actions on the ground to really make change.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Lesi sikhathi lapho khona emaphoyisa agubha kuba khona kwawo even. Kulapho kukhuthazwa khona sive ukuthi sike sihlale phansi sibuke bomcoka bemaphoyisa empilweni yabantu. Siphindze sibuke indlela letinsha tekuphepha kubo bonke bucala lobuveta sihloko. Sive sakangwane siyakhunjutwa ukuthi singawafaki emaphoyisa etinkulumeni tepolitiki ngoba liphoyisa alingeni futhi alingenelani nepolitiki. Emaphoyisa alwa nebucala netingoti temgwaco kuphela nje. Ingako emaphoyisa athi wonke umuntu eveni akahlale ngaphandle kwekunceneka ukuthi angahle ahlaselwe tilwane tasendle. Umuntu lohlala eSwatini akatiphilele atisebentele ngaphandle kwekwesaba kuhlaselwa kwemucwa nekucekelwa phansi kwempahla yakhe. Nawe wena lophathekile emaphoyisa athi digulele kahle uze uphile ngaphandle kwekuphatamiseka. Lokungenteka ngekuthi tidlova tingene tihlasele labo labakunakekelako kuleyo ndlu. Sive lesihlakaniphile nguleso lesiphakamisa kusebenta kwemaphoyisa nabo bonke labalwa nebucala. Ngale kwaloko timbungushe tiyawuwangenela emazinyane kungenamuntu ekhaya. Lo mlayeto niulethelwa ngemaphoyisa embube abambisene nomsakato wetithombe.
Asibuze sinimukele sitawubuka simo somgwaqo na Sergeant Gula sikuvusele Gula ngabe khambeke kanjani emgwaqweni nomhlekuseni.
Anguvusele ethombeni yekuseni ngivusele umbukeli welihlelo ngalokufishane yebo lokukhethekile siyawubuka emadolobha ethu lemigwaqo lemikhulu ekhathi edolobheni lasembabane tibane litlapha eceleni kwase Super Spa ati-70 nyalo ekuseni kanti imigwaqo yethu leminingi lesolo ilungiswa ekhathi edolobheni solo iyasetshenzwa njengaso Stalati lesingisozisa road lesuka lapha eTotal Gardens bheke lapha ku building le ingxenye yaso ivaliwe imoto lotincikisene emzileni longenako ekhathi edolobheni lesingakuphawula nje nesikusizelele ukuthi asizameni bekunene ukuthi sisebenzise lesinye istalati letingena khona ekhathi edolobheni kwatise ukuthi lo msamo wethu motolo kulo yamgwaqo usetulu kakhulu lestalati ke lesiyawusuka lapha ka Delta sihambe lapha endase Central Bank lapha eChinese Embassy naleso stalati leso naso siyasetshenzwa ingxenye yaso ivaliwe lebheka khona lapha kunajet bale temgwaqo khona lapha ngasemashayineni yena ke ukuthi ke imotolo letingena edolobheni iphambane naleto letingenako lapha ekhona ekhathi edolobheni lasembabane siyakhuthaza nje kakhulu bekunene kokuthi asinakene asicaphele njengoba imbawu lesiphakanyiselo tona ngitona thithi asilawula kangcono ngendlela lesingahamba ngayo ngaleso ephile kuleyo ngcingwana leyo namsakato street ke lekustalati lesuka lapha ngasemsakatweni sizophumela ngakhona kubo City A naso leso stalati incenye yaso sivaliwe kanti ke emgwaqweni wethu lomkhulu longenako lapha kubo icourt naleyo mgwaqo leyo nakhona lohamba lapha kubusandla nawo solo uyasetshenzwa silehlise litubane emele bekunene libe ngilelo leliphansi kakhulu leliyawenda kokuthi ke nabo labasebenzako bayawenda lo msebenzi wabo ngendlela eyawubanguleyo lephephile kanti ke kule migwaqo lomkhulu losuka lapha yekela sengwenya uyofika kumathapha uyahambeka kanti sawenza kamanzini ubheka khona lapha kubombadlana asicaphele imfuyo lapho siyakhuthaza kakhulu kubanikazi bemfuyo ukuthi abayikhweshise imfuyo emgwaqweni lokunene selesiqiniseko ukuthi ke lapho nabo bayaphepha labo labasebenzisa wona ke umgwaqo ngase motolo kanti ke nawusuka lapha emhlaleni ubheka khona lapha inhlangano ku-MR9 nakuleyo mgwaqo leyo lokunene solo kuyasetshenzwa lapho asicaphele ke nakhona o-stop and go lapha phakanyisiwe kuleyo ngwana leyo bekuthi ke bekunene siqhubeke phela sinake ikakhulukazi lapha na usuka kaMjuda ungena khona lapha e-bus rank nakhona lapho ikhona inguquko lesibenade itolo lesibhekile ukuthi nekuphakama kwelilanga nanamuhla leso sitaladi leso siyawuvalwa ngalokuphelele kanti-ke na usuka emathendele ku-MR9 wenyukela khona lapha etulu kafaya nakhona bekumele asiqaphele kwatise kokuthi litiyela lapho lisusiwe yebo kwanyalo siyakhona ukuwusebenzisa ngalo mgwaqo loyo kepha-ke sibekekile ukuthi leli tubane lesihamba ngalo libe litubane leliyawuba phansi sibili kanti na uphuma elihlangano ubheka khona kalavumise nakhona umgwaqo uyalungiswa ungakefiki lapha e-Royal Casino kanjalo-ke futhi nawo ama-temporary speed humps lesibekele wona lapha ngasemhlosheni nanciphisa lona litubane kwasise ukuthi kunezinqolo lezinkulu lesingenela-ke wona-ke umgwaqo lubombo luyahambeka kukhuthaza nje ukuthi lapha esifofaneni asijinge siyicaphele naye i-traffic circle leyakhiwe lapha kanti-ke vele lama-traffic circle nawubuka evela kangwane sekakhona sekalithandana kufuna-ke ukuthi-ke siwaqondisise indlela lefanele siniketane ngayo emathuba sisahamba kwesilayo ma-traffic circle sihloniphane siniketane emathuba lawo laphephile siphinde futhi sinake nabo labo labahamba ngezinyawo kungaba ngiloko nje ekuseni senasona sive semaswati indlela lehle basawuqhubeka bayisebenzisa imigwaqo nawo endlini emsakazo lelibandla lobambisene nalo sinifisele lona lusuku oluhle nalo luphephile sisaqhubeka nemsebenzi wethu siyabonga.
Asibonga kakhulu Gwele kusiniketala yombiko lomhla ekuseni asithathe likhefu sibe masinyane sibuke tindzaba singisi.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letiya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki tetemphilo tekulima tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letichamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
It has just gone 5 minutes after 7. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at our English news. The Kingdom of Eswatini has committed itself to investing more in education by constructing more libraries and laboratories in schools, among other things. Now, this commitment has been made by Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini during the Africa Heads of State Human Capital Summit in Tanzania, where he is representing His Majesty King Mswati III.
Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini, who is representing His Majesty King Mswati III at the summit, says despite Eswatini allocating the largest share of the national budget to education and health, the Kingdom of Eswatini will continue to invest more in those sectors so the youth can have access to good education and contribute to the economy. The summit is as a result of African states and the World Bank acting on statistics indicating that the African population, more especially the sub-Saharan region, is dominated by the youth, yet there are very few job opportunities. The Premier has informed African heads of state what Eswatini is planning to do to invest more in people and stated that the foundation of all this is good education.
The main thing that we need to do is to invest, improve the quality and the quantity of education. I just mentioned the laboratories, the medical schools, and of course the basics, which is the invest infrastructure. Since 2010, primary education is free. The only thing that is lacking is that it is not compulsory. I think I can say that that's a gap making. Because if it is free, we should make it compulsory. But we are progressing towards making sure that high school is also made free.
The World Bank states that the population in Eswatini is over 1.1 million and 72% of this are young people. The bank also states that over half of the youth is unemployed. It was said at the summit that these young people are an asset to Africa, which needs to be invested in today for states to reap the fruits in the future. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Health Minister Lizinkosi says the ministry will assemble a team of orthopedic doctors to deal with the backlog of patients who have bone-related ailments. The minister says the backlog is a result of challenges faced by the Ministry of Health, which include shortage of medication as well as personnel. The minister said this when visiting patients awaiting bone-related medical attention at the Mbabane Government Hospital.
Operations at the Mbabane Government Hospital were momentarily brought to a halt when patients admitted for orthopedic-related ailments left their wards to picket at the hospital's main gate, complaining about neglect due to non-availability of medication and personnel, among other complaints. Minister of Health Senator Lizinkosi hastily attended to the patients' concerns by addressing them on what government was doing to alleviate the situation.
Iyathengwa imithi kuyadeliver nje nala esibhedlela. Lokuyaye kusikhiye ngoloko ukuthi ukhanze ukuthi umuthi thide asikhoni vele ukuthola kulama suppliers. Kodwa emalanga nemalanga siyadeliver kusho lutho kini nini lelihleti la ningaboni lokuthi kukhona lokwentekayo kukhona lokwentekayo kude ilanga lamahala lapha lama suppliers angasibambisi kuko. Sesedama ke manje imitamo lemkhulu kwekuthi sibuke ukuthi kungaba njani ukuthi basibambise sikhone kucala kuleli viki lelitako. Sibuke lawo ma cases lesingawenda. Angisho ukuthi lokhu kutabalula ngoba la ngenhlanye sibuke ukuthi imithi lengenako nalesitholako inganani kulala basupplyako. La ngenhlanye sibuke ukuthi labo dokotela lesawukhulumisana nabo batosebenza la eMbabane eRFM nasemankayane ngoba abantu abaningi sebasuke tonke esibhedlela deliver bede la eMbabane ngaloku sibabona ngathi kukhona lokukhona. Siltiko siyetama kakhulu. Manje nje ukucolisa vele kwekuthi imithi beyisiphelele sedama kuyiletha nalokuthi lokhu lokunibambelele ngiko lokuthi ukhanze ukuthi bodokotela kude bona kunalabo lababili.
About 2 weeks ago, Minister of Health Senator Lizinkosi delivered a report in Parliament outlining that her ministry has since been given the green light to hire more health personnel, including doctors. In the report, the minister also highlighted that the Republic of China, Taiwan, and the Kingdom of Lesotho are helping government to upgrade the medication supply system to track medication from the central medical stores to final destination. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Mbongwa Dube with Vumingozi Nzinisa in Mbabane.
The African Union humanitarian mission is in the Kingdom of Eswatini to assess the effects of Cyclone Eloise that the country experienced in 2021. The acting Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mabulala Masego, says the delegates are expected to visit roads and bridges across the country. Masego was speaking when he was welcoming the AU humanitarian mission at the King Mswati III International Airport.
The acting Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has welcomed the African Union Humanitarian Assessment Mission that will look into the devastating effect of Cyclone Eloise. The Kingdom of Eswatini is among 10 countries across the African continent that have been selected to benefit from the African Union's humanitarian fund.
Live leMaswati ke lalahlekelwa kakhulu kufaka ekhathi amavela amanye. Siyajabula ke kakhulu ekutheni lelibandla from the African Union likhona lapha litonda i-assessment nanalo.
Minister Mabulala Masego says the delegation is expected to visit bridges and roads across the country. Masego says the National Disaster Management Agency conducted a rapid assessment to identify the extent of the damage, which showed that a total of 2,768 people were affected. The ambassador of Ethiopia to the African Union and United Nations Commission for Africa, His Excellency Ayele Lire Jijamo, says their visit is to show solidarity to African Union member states.
To show the solidarity of African Union members to the Kingdom of the Eswatini, to the peoples and government of the Eswatini, on the impact that the government and people of Kingdom of Eswatini faced during the cyclone impact in 2021. And that impact had affected, we learned that that impact had affected infrastructure, destruction of the infrastructure, and affected also many thousands of the people.
In response to the damage caused by Tropical Cyclone Eloise, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini committed a total of 40 million emalangeni to assist in the reconstruction and rehabilitation of damaged and destroyed infrastructure. Eswatini TV News on Mlangeni, Themba Shabangu, King Mswati III International Airport.
The Kingdom of Eswatini, in collaboration with United Nations agencies, is taking stock of what the country has done in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. According to the United Nations Program Communications, Sibusiso Mngadi, the United Nations is working with the Ministry of Economic Planning to look at the challenges that ministries face in their quest to achieve the goals. Mngadi was speaking during the whole region SDGs engagement with meetings held in Babane.
Most countries, including Eswatini, are preparing for the 2023 SDG Summit, which will be convened in September 2023 during the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week, marking the midpoint of implementing the 17 SDGs of the 2030 Agenda agreed in 2015. Eswatini government, in collaboration with the United Nations agencies, is currently engaging officers on the ground to take stock of the progress made. The United Nations Program's Communications Specialist, Sibusiso Mngadi, says they have visited 3 regions already.
Sitakhumbula kune COVID-19 kunetimbi kunalokwa nalokwa lokhu affectela ama SDGs le ngabe nyalo vele sisehafini yokufika kuwo. Kepha ke baholi bemhlaba na UN babonile lokuthi kungendeka ukuthi ngeke usifake igear lelinye.
Mngadi says there were a number of challenges that hinders the achievement of these goals, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Mngadi says countries need to work on how they can accelerate these goals, which are an urgent call for action.
Ukuthi ibe khona nema regional development teams. Regional development teams ndawuthi multi-sectoral ngoba afaka tonke tinhlangothi.
The goals are for achieving a better and more sustainable future for all. They also address global challenges as poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, and peace and justice. Eswatini TV News on Mlangeni, Themba Shabangu, Babane.
The Consumer Forum has welcomed the move by the Central Bank of Eswatini to cut the interest rate by 25 basis points. This was said by the president of the Eswatini Consumer Forum, Mandla Njagala, who reiterated that this will be a relief for consumers. Jagala says local financial institutions should try to simplify this information for their clients.
The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini announced that the bank has cut the interest rate by 25 basis points, which will see a decrease in different bank installments. The Consumer Forum is quite pleased with this move, as they believe it will bring a bit of relief that eMaswati need. The president of the Consumer Forum, Mandla Njagala, says local financial institutions should take it upon themselves to simplify this information to their clients so they understand how this will affect them.
SimaSwati empeleni sitelo lwati leliphelele sonke nakutawukhulunyiswa ema-issues lafana nema-interest rates. Singacela ukuthi kulawo mabhange nawo onke ama-financial institutions lesinawo la kaNgwane kube khona la kwendako kuma-clients awo like kubafundzisa ukuthi tino letifana nabo-interest rates tisho kuthini.
Thembinkosi Dube, an economist, says this is a good move in a short run. He says he believes that the central bank did what was necessary.
It's a good move for consumers. We appreciate it's going to reduce the load on loan repayments, which is quite a good thing. And we trust it's going to relieve quite a number of people to be able to breathe in these difficult economic times where we see a rise in inflation rate and everything.
The central bank's monetary policy statement states that the gross domestic product grew by a slower 1.1% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2023, down from a revised growth of 6.7% in the fourth quarter of 2022. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Themba Shabangu, Mbabane.
eMaswati, who have various talents, will have the opportunity to share them on the international stage. This was said by Velile Dube, who is the director of Show Your Talent Eswatini, at the Mountain View Hotel during the launch of the Talent Search Show to be held at the Mbabane Theatre Club on August 12, 2023.
A newly formed organization known as Show Your Talent Eswatini, which focuses on scouting, grooming and exporting local talent to international fora, has obtained a license from Show Your Talent South Africa and Show Your Talent America to work collaboratively in exposing local artists to international markets.
We're here to put together a very strong team of artists. So, for example, I would say that we are going to a World Cup. We are putting together, but this time it's a World Cup or an international space for artists. We're going to have 4 categories. There's going to be dance, there's going to be modeling, there's going to be music, because there's singing and instruments, and then there's going to be dance. So today we are launching this amazing competition, which leads to Talent America.
Velile says the event to select local outstanding artists is open to all, regardless of age. Eswatini National Council of Arts and Culture recently established regional arts centers where eMaswati could hone their artistry to help them earn a living. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Mbongwa Dube, Vumingo Sinzinisa and Sindiswa Zwane in Babane.
Manzini Wanderers Football Club has become the second club to register over 1 million votes in the ongoing Momo Cup voting system that will end on the 18th of September this year. Wanderers is second behind leaders Peaks behind Black Swallows.
Manzini Wanderers has become the second club to reach 1 million votes in the ongoing race of the 2023 Momo Cup voting system, where they have a number of 1.1 million votes. They are behind leaders Peaks Black Swallows, who are over 1.6 million votes. Babane Highlanders are third with over 960,000 votes. Babane Swallows are fifth in the race with over 900,000 votes. In total, all the 28 Premier League and National First Division clubs have got close to 9 million votes. The deadline for the voting system will be on the 18th of September this year. Former Sihlangu Semnigati and Kaizer Chiefs goalkeeper William Kulkat Shongwe believes local clubs, being Green Mamba, who will face Songo FC from Mozambique under the CAF Champions League, and Young Buffaloes, who will face South African side Skokuna United, under the CAF Confederations Cup have both a chance to proceed to the next stage.
Still feel like Eswatini, if you look at the players that consist of the Green Mamba and the other team, they've got most players in the national team. So that on its own is added value to the club, because these players have now international experience at international level. So there's a lot of factors that tells the story that there could be possible upset. Everyone has a chance here.
Both teams will play their games next month. Lastly, in our international news, French national team captain Kylian Mbappe continues to be the headline of the transfer window, with some of the European clubs such as Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Inter Milan and FC Barcelona being the latest clubs to show interest in the 24-year-old. This follows the £259 million bid from the Al Ahly club from the South Arabian side. From Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
Right, 21 minutes after 7, that marks the end of our English news. We will look at our weather focus, and after that, we look at a clip that talks to the impact of climate shocks, in the sense that climate emergency is the main driver behind today's soaring food costs and the rising number of people facing extreme hunger. Now, communities who contribute the least to the problem are the ones bearing the brunt of its impact, but solutions exist to help food producers, average families, communities, and governments to adapt and manage climate risk. We will look at a clip after the weather focus that addresses just that.
Which are the way we produce food and we bring it to people's tables, are an excellent entry point for climate action.
We don't want for it to be years of debate before resources to address these issues are in the hands of people who need them most.
Once our trucks are rolling and our airdrops are coming to distribute food, it is already too late. Distributing food is not the answer. Then we are already confronted with a failure to predict and a failure to protect.
Have you ever asked yourself, how does climate change actually affect me? Look no further than your plate. In today's global food crisis, you may have noticed certain foods experiencing it in the same way. Vulnerable countries and communities are already suffering. These are often communities who contribute the least to the climate crisis, and now bear the brunt of impacts, with limited ways to adapt. This is climate injustice.
Those that are mostly impacted by climate change are those living in countries like Madagascar, for instance, with already low production capacity, less industrial emissions, but where communities have also poor access to services and materials and still are at the front line of the crisis. These are victims of heat waves or invasion of locusts, for instance, and those cascading consequences of climate change are resulting in loss of human life sometimes, agriculture production, also animal production, and at the end to the economy of those countries as well.
Emissions reductions to mitigate the climate crisis are crucial, but we can't wait for this. We must enable communities on the front lines to adapt to the worsening impacts of the crisis. And at the World Food Programme, we do. Anticipatory action is one way of supporting people before shocks occur. Funding and implementing preventative measures before a disaster occurs has proven to be life-changing.
One of the most promising innovations we've seen is anticipatory action. With the technological advances and the reliability of weather forecasts nowadays, we know with really reliable frequency when a shock is going to hit and who are the people who are going to be most likely affected and how is this going to hurt their livelihoods, what kind of losses might they incur. So with this information and with this reliable forecast, we're often able to pre-identify resources and agree upon how they would be used should the shock hit as is forecasted.
When individuals have the opportunity to manage anticipatory action in their local community, change is possible. But it also depends on governments willing to play a key role, changing policies and processes, and committing to investing in climate solutions. Because addressing climate change means making system change. Smallholder farmers across the world are highly vulnerable to climate-related risks, such as droughts or floods and storms. With very limited access to the risk financing tools and services that can provide protection from resulting financial losses. This locks many farmers into a vicious cycle of poverty and food insecurity, as recovery from increasingly recurrent and cascading losses becomes close to impossible.
WFP works with communities and governments to use a range of tools to protect communities from the impacts of these shocks. Some of these might be instruments such as microinsurance that WFP aggregates and pays the premium for on behalf of farmers. It might be anticipatory action that will allow WFP and others to respond much faster in a much more targeted way.
Right now, the activities required to produce, process, and transport food to our tables are neither equitable nor sustainable. The strength of our food systems is further tested in the face of climate impacts. Protection against such risks can help in the short and long term. WFP's Food Assistance for Assets initiative addresses immediate food needs through cash, vouchers, or food transfers, while at the same time it promotes the building or rehabilitation of assets that will improve long-term food security and resilience. These activities aim to create healthier natural environments, reduce the risks and impact of climate and other shocks, increase food productivity, and strengthen resilience to disasters over time. The climate might be changing, but so are we. We've seen how implementing solutions to anticipate, restore, protect, and energize can support affected communities. Every step taken against climate injustice brings us closer to our pursuit of a world free from hunger.
Is it still possible to fight the climate crisis? Yes, it is possible. We know what we have to do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the way we live and work. We know how to adapt to the impacts of the climate crisis and to manage climate risk, but we need the institutional incentives, the processes, the political will to do this globally and at scale. As a global community, we are only as safe as our most vulnerable members. If we manage to de-risk food systems and protect the most vulnerable, then we will be able to stem the tide of global hunger.
Using an ATM is a simple process. You simply insert your card, punch in your PIN, and withdraw your cash. However, this simple process can open up you and your finances to some dangers. So it is very important that you proceed with caution when using the ATM and never share your PIN. When approaching the ATM, it is very important that you have your card ready, either in your hand or in your pocket, so that you do not waste time going through your belongings, either your wallet or your handbag, as this will give opportunities for thieves to act. Thirdly, put your money away immediately. Don't give anyone an opportunity to grab your cash or your card after a withdrawal. Lastly, always take your receipt after each and every transaction. It is important that you get your slip after every transaction because it contains crucial information about your balances, and that may lead you to be a victim of bolandela. Be cyber aware, We're cyber smart.
Welcome back. So bukela hlelo Kusile Breakfast Show sakuvusela nawo lo sanza kusivulela isikhathi nje sitawubukela etothamba embili kunamanye amave sawuqala khona eveni sifundise live kade le-Africa. African leaders arrive in Russia for summit as Kremlin seeks allies amid fighting in Ukraine.
Russian President Vladimir Putin held talks with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Wednesday ahead of a Russia-Africa summit. Putin has billed the two-day summit that opens in St. Petersburg on Thursday as a major event that will help bolster ties with a continent of 1.3 billion people that is increasingly assertive on the global stage. A regular political dialogue is maintained, and the heads of foreign affairs departments closely cooperate. Russia and Ethiopia share a common position in resolving many topical issues on the global agenda. Once again, I want to welcome all of you, dear friends, and I want to express the hope that our meeting today, as well as participation in joint work at the Russia-Africa Summit, will be fruitful and will benefit the development of all our relationships. This is the second Russia-Africa summit since 2019.
We have a very long history. We've been passing through lots of ups and downs together. This visit, in my opinion, will strengthen our relationship. We're going to discuss on both bilateral, multilateral issues as well. And we're going to discuss about technology, cybersecurity, economic exchange, trade. I hope this will be a very fruitful discussion.
The number of heads of states attending the summit stands at 17.
Stakes are high as African dignitaries met Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg for the second edition of the Russia-Africa Summit on July 27th. Growing pressure from US and EU diplomats to stand against the war in Ukraine has raised concerns about the massive destructions of property.
Stakes are high as African dignitaries met Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg for the second edition of the Russia-Africa Summit on July 27. Growing pressure from US and EU diplomats to stand against the war in Ukraine have raised concern from the massive destruction of property and lives lost. This war was started, according to experts, with the NATO expansion to the east.
NATO is not providing direct lethal assistance. The NATO alliance is not training Ukrainian soldiers. We are leaving that to individual countries. That's their own sovereign decision to make. And we want to make sure that our friends in Africa understand what's at stake in Ukraine, understand what NATO is and is not doing. I would note that NATO is providing some important non-lethal support to our friends in Ukraine.
Despite the ongoing pressure campaign for African countries to stand with Ukraine, 17 heads of states out of intended 43 were in St. Petersburg in what can be seen as a way to seek new allies for Russia. Nevertheless, the U.S. ambassador to NATO sees the absence of the remaining countries as a signal. Russia has recently terminated the Black Sea grain deal, which many believe will negatively impact certain African nations.
Some leaders in Africa now feel compelled not to go to signal their concern about Russia's unprovoked aggression in Ukraine.
The issue of food security is one of the most urgent on the continent, and African leaders are looking to President Putin for concrete promises on grain supplies.
As Russia withdraws from the very important Black Sea Grain Initiative, are there concerns by African leaders that that action by Russia will impact food security in their own country? If that leader is feeling the impact of that war, particularly as it relates to food security, then they may indeed feel compelled to go to the Russians and urge them to, number one, get the grain deal back online, and number two, end the war as soon as possible.
According to analysts, Africa and NATO cooperation seems to be one of the destructive alliances, as many seem to remember the key role the Allies played in the Libyan Arab Spring back in 2011 when they ousted its strongman, Muammar Gaddafi.
Soldiers claim to have overthrown the Niger government on Thursday following an apparent coup in the fragile state after members of the Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum.
Following countless reports of an attempted coup d'etat in Niger, soldiers from the country's army take to the airwaves to confirm the takeover.
Nous, forces de défense et de sécurité, réunis au sein du Conseil national pour la sauvegarde de la patrie, CNSP, avons décidé de mettre fin au régime que vous connaissez. Cela fait suite à la dégradation continue de la situation sécuritaire, la mauvaise gouvernance économique et sociale.
The soldiers say they've imposed a nationwide curfew and have shut the country's borders. Their statement comes after members of the Presidential Guard prevented President Mohamed Bazoum from leaving his residence, keeping him and his family captive. Niger's army had said it would intervene if those detaining the president did not back down. Bazoum's supporters tried to take matters into their own hands on Wednesday, protesting against the coup in the capital. They were dispersed by troops from the Presidential Guard who fired shots warning them away from the presidential compound. Although the motive for the coup remains unclear, the African Union Commission and the West African bloc ECOWAS have condemned the overthrow.
It is with amazement and dismay that ECOWAS has learned of the attempted coup in Niger. It condemns in the strongest possible terms this attempt to seize power by force and calls on the perpetrators to immediately and unconditionally release the democratically elected President of the Republic.
The West African state is one of the most unstable nations in the world, experiencing now 5 coups since independence from France in 1960, as well as numerous other attempts on power. The country's last coup occurred in February 2010, overthrowing then-President Mamadou Tanja. The European Union also condemned the action, as did Washington, which counts Niger as a key ally in the region.
We are gravely concerned about the developments in Niger. We strongly support the democratically elected President Bazoum, and we condemn in the strongest terms any efforts to seize power by force and disrupt the constitutional order.
The takeover in Niger could further complicate Western efforts to help countries in the Sahel combat a jihadist insurgency that has spread from Mali over the past decade.
The African Union and the Economic Community of West African States on Wednesday condemned an attempted coup d'etat in Niger and called for President Mohamed Bazoum to be liberated amid reports that members of the Presidential Guard were holding him inside his palace.
Niger's recent history has been punctuated by coups, 4 since it won independence from France in 1960, and there have been many more attempted seizures of power. When President Mohamed Bazoum succeeded Mahamadou Issoufou in 2021, it was the first peaceful handover of power in Niger's history. But even that was threatened by violence. Just days before Bazoum took office, gunfire was heard near the presidential palace. Senior military officers were accused of attempting a coup. It was suppressed and President Bazoum's inauguration went ahead as planned. The suspected ringleaders were arrested and later convicted. But far from the centre of power, Niger's wider security situation has deteriorated sharply in recent years. Armed groups and bandits have mounted repeated attacks in the southwestern and southeastern areas bordering Mali, Burkina Faso and Nigeria. The violence is contributing to a devastating humanitarian crisis in what's already one of the poorest countries in the world. International forces have been on the ground to support the army. Niger has now become the centre of France's operations in the wider Sahel region after the military juntas in Mali and Burkina Faso ordered French troops to leave. Niger's government has approved the deployment of more European troops, which some opponents see as an attack on the country's sovereignty.
Some refugees living in Nairobi cannot speak English or Swahili, which makes integrating into society a struggle.
Masajid Saif al-Din escaped from war and violence in Sudan. The Sudanese journalist was forced to seek refuge in Kenya.
I came here through Ethiopia after the outbreak of war in my country. Seriously, I had a lot of problems before reaching here. My trip is very long. With start from Al Kamlin, Ethiopia to Gondar, and to Addis, and after that from here.
Saif al-Din and many other refugees who live in Nairobi struggle to speak or write in English or Swahili. Saif al-Din has enrolled in English language courses at Maarifa College, a higher learning institute in the Kenyan capital that helps refugees and locals learn different languages.
Very difficult because all people talk Swahili and English. As for the culture in Sudan, I talk about Arabic, not English. Just I'm here in Maarifa College. I learn to talk English here.
Tyrese Yusuf, a Somali refugee, faces a similar problem. Now he must learn English and Swahili in a short period of time to survive in Nairobi.
When I came here, it was difficult for me English, but I started to listening, writing, and then I feel improved. How can I talk English?
Mary Niakowa, a teacher at Maarifa College, says the language barrier makes many of her students feel isolated and hopeless.
We teach them how to speak, but we also give them moral values, moral support, so they understand when you are out there how you're supposed to conduct yourself as a refugee. One thing that we do here is after 3 months, we normally have different programs, and one of them is to teach them their rights as refugees.
Providing inclusive education to refugees can be a challenging task. Obstacles include the availability of schools, classrooms, and teachers in host communities. Salome Tera is the director of adult education in Nairobi County.
They should be given an education in English and Swahili so they can live and speak to people here. We should understand the problem they have.
Among Kenyan citizens.
The language barrier is just one of the challenges refugees face in Kenya. For Huwa Abdi, Nairobi, Kenya, Salam Solomon, VOA News.
After a 5-year absence, the United States rejoins the United Nations body charged with cultural, scientific, and educational heritage. Here's the story.
Bonjour Paris et bonjour UNESCO. President Joe Biden chose his favorite soft power ambassador to mark the U.S. rejoining the United Nations Cultural Organization, 5 years after former President Donald Trump withdrew.
I was honored to join you today as we raise the flag of the United States, a symbol of our commitment to global collaboration and peace. The United States is proud to join as a member state of UNESCO. Madam Director General, you've worked long and hard to help us realize this goal.
The U.S. pulled out of UNESCO alleging anti-Israel bias after it admitted Palestine as a member. Palestine is not a UN-recognized state. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization designates 1,157 properties around the world as having cultural significance, including the ancient town of Bethlehem. The Prominent American Jewish Committee told VOA they supported the U.S. decision to rejoin UNESCO, despite its concerns about what it sees as a lack of recognition of Jewish culture and the Jewish state.
UNESCO is an important agency. It's not perfect, nor is any other UN entity, but it does really important work. And it is a vehicle for soft power, for the exercise of soft power. And for the United States to not be in that agency meant that other players, competitors, rivals of the United States could have a seat at the table, could have cultural programs, scientific exchanges, educational programs in countries all over the world, especially the developing world, in places and in ways that the United States could not.
Other UNESCO heritage sites include Athens' majestic Acropolis, the massive ancient rock-hewn churches of Lalibela in northern Ethiopia, China's Great Wall, and this. The historic center of the Ukrainian port city of Odessa was added to the heritage list this year. This month, Russian missiles struck its soaring cathedral.
On this night alone in Odessa, nearly 50 buildings were damaged. 25 of them architectural monuments. The Historic Center, a World Heritage Site that UNESCO has taken under its protection.
The heavy responsibility of carrying all this cultural weight is lighter now that the U.S., a major UNESCO contributor, is back, said its Director General, Audrey Azoulay.
In these times of division, rifts, and existential threats to humanity, we reaffirm here and today our union. The Star-Spangled Banner of the United States of America will float in a few moments over the Paris skies.
On Tuesday, the American flag retook its place at UNESCO headquarters in the City of Light. Anita Powell, VOA News, the White House.
As the conflict draws closer to the eastern city of Lyman, remaining students say online education is only nominally better than no education at all.
Every school in the city of Liman, Ukraine has been damaged, and many are destroyed. This school was hit before the city was captured by Russia in May 2022, and it has remained shut down since Ukraine took the city back 4 months later.
Over here, we ran long and short distances for gym class. Here we played football. On the second floor was a cafeteria. On the first floor was an assembly room.
We had assemblies there.
In the basement, we had industrial arts and health classes.
Now, as the battles once again approach Liman with an attack killing 8 civilians in early July, students say they are facing yet another year of the online education that began with pandemic lockdowns. Local leaders say volunteers provide some supplies and internet links.
They are not enough, but they provided us with laptops, tablets, printers, and stationery items. But it was very, very difficult.
But students say supplies are useless when battles draw near, as the internet is down or only available in hospitals or military bases. The Ukrainian government says thousands of schools have been damaged in the war and hundreds are destroyed. Studying online under these conditions is better than no education at all, but just barely, says Zakhar.
I'd rather study at school than on the phone online. On the phone, sometimes the topics are not even clear. At school, they will explain everything to you, show you, and you write things down, go to the blackboard, answer questions.
Other students tell us they are forgetting more from their in-person school days than they are currently learning. In Liman, there are just over 500 children struggling to get an education, as most families have long fled the area. Across Ukraine, millions of children's educations have been disrupted. Millions more children have fled the country, and more than 500 have been killed. Heather Murdoch, VOA News, Liman, Ukraine.
It's 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Ngiletoke bethamba imbili kulamanye emave lesikhathi nje sitabahlala emakethe sitabe sichubeke nehlelo.
Hello everyone.
Ngabukela ke washa umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Right, it's 52 minutes after 7. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You will remember that when we spoke to LinkedIn Kusile yesterday, he did highlight that after Italy, they fly straight to Russia, where Vladimir Putin is meeting with African leaders for the Russia-Africa Summit 2023. They have just arrived. I'm getting news from LinkedIn Kusile that they have just arrived. Russian President Vladimir Putin is to speak today at the plenary session of the Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Forum in St. Petersburg, and will also continue separate meetings with African colleagues. The second Russia-Africa Summit, as well as an economic and humanitarian forum organized by the Roscoe Congress Foundation, are scheduled to be held in St. Petersburg from today through the 28th, which is tomorrow. Like the first summit, the event will be held under the motto for peace, security, and development.
Russian-African Summit kicked off the day before on Wednesday when Putin had talks at the Constant Palace in Strelina with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and with the head of the new BRICS Development Bank, Dilma Rousseff. The series of meetings will continue on Thursday morning before the plenary session. Putin is to meet Chairman of the African Union, President of the Union of the Comoros, Azali Assoumani, and the Chairman of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat.
And there they are. As you can see on TV, Vladimir Putin is already addressing some of the African leaders that have already arrived in Russia. The plenary session of the Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Forum will be held on Thursday, today, and on Friday. The plenary session of the summit of the same name will take place as Yuri Ushakov, aide to the Russian president, said earlier at the plenary session. The Russian leader will make a big speech in which he will assess the current state of the system of international relations, including the formation of a new world order.
He will also focus on the prospects for the further development of relations between Russia and Africa, in particular on Russian assistance to the national sovereign development of African countries, ensuring fair access to food, fertilizers, modern technologies, and energy resources. Some of Russia's initiatives in this area will also be unveiled.
A working breakfast of the president with the heads of African regional organizations is also being held today. As for bilateral meetings, the Russian leader will continue them not only on Thursday and Friday, that is on the official days of the forum and the Russia-Africa Summit, but also on Saturday, July 29.
Yes, and also as Ushakov emphasized, 17 heads of states of the African continent are expected to attend the Russia-Africa Summit, and Putin plans to meet with each of them. In total, delegations from 49 African countries will come to St. Petersburg. According to experts interviewed by TASS, the arrival of high-ranking guests speaks of the growing independence of the countries of the continent and their attitude towards developing relations with Russia.
Among the contacts on the president's schedule for Thursday are meetings with the leaders of Mozambique, Burundi, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and Eritrea. It is quite interesting that we will be joined by LinkedIn tomorrow morning, Kusile Breakfast Show, but there will be developments with regards to the Russia-Africa Summit. Lesitokona kutsi sikhone kutibona etindzabeni talomuhla futhi nje ukuthi kube tindzaba tensimbi yesikhombisa ntsambama lapho khona sitawuthola umbiko logcwele ngekufika kwaloliphini landvunankulu imphunga Themba Masuku khona eRussia. LinkedIn tasitshela kabanti ekutheni even inkulumo yakhe Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku itawutsinza tiphi tinhlangothi kuyo le summit. Siwabonile ke ama-African leaders lamaningi lapha ekhathi nabo William Ruto sakavele ayehla endizeni khona eRussia. Kutaba ngumsebenzi lomkhulu lutaba ngilamasuku lamabili kusukela ke suku lalomuhla nelakusasa kanti ke kuyavedwa lo ukuthi nangemgcibelo kutaba khona tinkulumo nje letaba khona mayelana nawo lo msebenzi. Siyawukatha ke kuye LinkedIn kule lokugcwele.
Yeah, sizakumla mbukele ukuthi Deputy Prime Minister umelele yena silenkosi umsado wesithathu kulo mhlangano lokucalela namuhla kanti kodwa waphetha kusasa njengoba sajide sifisa ukuthi we're hoping to speak to our senior journalist LinkedIn egule tomorrow ndosiniketa nje updates ukuthi umhlangano elangeni lekuqala uhambe kanjani njengoba nje uyaphetha kusasa on the 28th of July. Sibakhona ukuthi nibe nathi lo mhla on the show sifiso sisibavalelisa nje babukele sethemba ukuthi babatabanele ilanga lelibusisekile. And if you've just joined us, you can watch this episode of the show on our YouTube Eswatini TV page.
I think from us it's a goodbye, and just to remind people ukuthi umkhuhlane usekhona abambathe abantu nakumakhata. The weather is a bit tricky these days. It's very cold in the morning, liphume ilanga during the day, pheze kwamakhata kakhulu ngathi thuba tanzambama, so umuntu akayiphathe nje leyo jacket ukuthi uma sayikhokhile mina phinze akhone kuyigcoka nakucala kuba makhata singanoba nemkhuhlane bekunene. Ngalo muhla sikubalelise from us, myself, Lungelele, the whole breakfast show crew today. Sithini sale kahle.